got the touch. You got the power.
Greetings, Neuroloaders! My name is Rook, coming to you live via Allspark radio transmission from Mouth 04 Studios in Cybertron City. Ladies and gentlebots, I have here quite possibly the two greatest people in the history of people. Two legends of their own right, and the voices of many cherished characters including Optimus Prime, Ironhide, Megatron, and Soundwave. Their combined careers span almost a century, and their work can be described as nothing less than extraordinary. I'd like to give a very special welcome to my guests, Peter Cullen and Frank Welker.
Look! Look what I found!
Give that to me, Cog.
It was in the bathroom next to the sink! It's so pretty and shiny!
Right. Now, give that to me, please.
No! I found it! It's mine! My own! My precious!
Excuse me, Optimus. I think this may be yours. Did you by any chance lose a matrix of leadership? I think Cog might have nibbled on it a bit too.
That's okay. It is not a problem.
Thank goodness for that, because you never know who might find one of these things.
Is Frank there too?
Frank was supposed to be beamed in simultaneously with you, Peter. Cog, where is he?
I'm working on it!
Well, Peter, can I get you anything while we wait?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay. Well, we're just going to have to wait for Frank to get here before we start.
Okay.
Cog, we're a little strapped for time here.
Don't pressure me, Rook!
And there we have it. Well, Peter, I'm sorry I didn't have much to talk to you about beforehand. It's just, well, I read from the cue cards to sound natural, so...
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm great, thanks. Very well. Took some time off. Been going to the Robo Gym more lately.
Oh, you stupid little thing of what? Quiet! Work!
Perfect timing.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning to you too, Frank, and welcome to the show. Sorry about that. Something happened with the transporter, and, well, I hope you weren't doing anything important beforehand.
I just had a knock on the door.
Oh, no, Pete, that's me.
Oh, it was you.
Where's the coffee and donuts you promised?
They're under the bottom step. But watch out for the rattler.
This must be some human cultural exchange. What do you think, Cog?
I have no idea.
All right, gentlemen, if we're ready, let's go ahead and get started. Feel free to improvise and use your character voices whenever possible. And no need to worry about trivia. I mean, after all, we're not Trekkies.
I think the fact that there's no knowledge necessary is perfect for both of us.
That works for me, Frank.
Cog, can you cue it up again for me, please?
The touch. You got the power.
Greetings, Neuroloaders! My name is Rook, coming to you live via Allspark radio transmission from Mouth 04 Studios in Cybertron City. I have here quite possibly the two greatest people in the history of peopledom. Two legends of their own right, and the voices of many cherished characters including Optimus Prime, Ironhide, Megatron, and Soundwave. I'd like to give a very special welcome to my guests, Peter Cullen and Frank Welker.
Great to be here, Rook.
Thanks for having us. I appreciate it very much.
As always, I'd like to introduce my scraplet assistant, Cog.
Hello, Frank. Hello, Peter. It's very nice to meet you. Peter, does your mustache come off?
Oh, for crying out loud, Cog, didn't I tell you to refrain from odd questions? You're going to make them feel uncomfortable.
Cog, forgive my words, but you are cute.
Oh, my Peter, now you've done it. Is this bothering either of you?
It kind of makes me uneasy. Like a nightmare of dreaming about Starscream or Optimus Prime.
Yeah, those would have been my exact words, too. Well, it needs to be done, and the listeners love it so. Frank, would you mind pushing this button for me, please?
I'd love to.
Okay, on to questions, shall we? What do you think Transformers fans will like the most from the new Revenge of the Fallen game?
Well, Peter and I were fortunate enough to have an opportunity to go over to Activision and meet some of the folks that worked on this game and developed it. And we watched kind of a rough cut of some of the things, and they were telling us, what was going on. And both Peter and I just sat there with our chins touching the table. It was just so awesome. Now, I'm going to be honest, and Pete, you can tell them what you think, but I'm not really very game savvy, so I was just enjoying the visuals and trying to understand what was going on. But it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun for the gamers, and it's just action-packed, and I wish I knew more about it and how to play it, because it sure looks like a lot of fun.
Well, absolutely right on. And to tell you the truth, Frank is not exaggerating when he said drop jaw. It was very evident that the game has explosive new elements to it, and I was particularly excited by the fact that they can take this online and battle with friends, but they can be a Decepticon or an Autobot and assume those characters. It's a long way from the original series, and it's almost biblical in proportions when you look at it today. That what they are capable of doing, the weaponry and the choice of characters and the intensity of it, plus the music, it's fabulous.
Mm-hmm. Well, tell us, approximately how many hours of studio time did you clock while recording lines for the new game?
Well, Frank, I'm not aware of how many hours you spent, because we did work alone, Rook, and we had a lot of sessions. Mine, and I think added up to a little more than 5 sessions at a couple of hours each or more, and that was from beginning to end without breaks. So it was just continual lines with no lines from anybody else. Just my own personal lines.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I had put in my contract with Activision that I had to have more lines than Optimus Prime. But obviously, he succeeded in getting more lines than me, so there will be some discussion about that in the future. Actually, it's pretty much the same as what Peter said. And 2 hours at a time doing all of those lines by yourself is it's a lot of work. And I don't know about you, Peter, but I was kind of reflecting on the series, and I was thinking about when we actually did a show with a full cast. We may have had 15 or 20 lines separated by other actors. So, it's a different type of work mode that's quite different than what we did when we did the show.
Oh, that's for sure. It was very concentrated, and you couldn't possibly do all the grunts and fighting sounds, during that. You had to do them at the end of the session when you were most exhausted.
Yeah, exactly right.
Very similar to the way we did the series.
Now, Frank, while recording for Revenge of the Fallen, did you finally succeed in making Peter laugh water out of his nose? And if so, what are your current goals?
Well, as Peter mentioned, unfortunately, we had to record by ourselves. So as much as I tried to sneak into his sessions to disrupt them, I was barred by his security. He travels with 2 or 3 security guards now that he's so popular. I still just drive my Volkswagen, and nobody knows who I am, but there's Optimus Prime in that Rolls Royce with 4 bodyguards. But actually, when we go to the commissary now, I'm going to work on trying to get him to choke on a chocolate chip cookie. I think that would be good.
I'll be prepared. Well, you know what, Frank? I won't forgive you for showing up in that Eeyore costume, dragging your back seat behind you. Anything to break me up, but that I won't forget. That I won't forget.
Excellent. So, Scooby-Doo versus Eeyore. Who would win in a death match?
Boy, there's one from outfield.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Well, I'll strike out with that one.
Note to self, avoid animal-related questions when interviewing humans. All right, then. 2 words. Megan Fox. What are your reactions?
Yes, Megan is definitely a fox.
She is definitely a fox. I'll tell you what, it's her eyes, the intensity of her eyes, the kind of those deep sapphire blue eyes that just keep twinkling. As a matter of fact, if I were a moth, I'd probably flutter around her face for hours.
Wow. That's why Optimus Prime is Optimus Prime.
Okay, so no animal questions, but insects appear to be okay. Peter, in an alternate universe, if you had been given the role of Megatron, could you give us an example of what he might have sounded like?
Well, I do recall auditioning for Megatron, and I didn't get very far because I based my character analysis on Truman Capote. And I really, it was a bit of a stretch, but I mean, I guess they didn't buy it. It's hard to sound mean and evil when you say, you know, you really are making me mad. I would do anything to just throw this glass of water in your face. I don't think that would work.
I'm inclined to agree. Frank, if roles had been reversed and you were given the roles of Optimus Prime and Ironhide, can you give us an example of what they would have sounded like?
Where I was trying so hard to do this voice for Optimus Prime, and I hadn't realized that he'd already done it for Megatron.
Truman! Oh, Truman!
But I gotta admit, his is much, much better than mine.
Oh.
I think that maybe Ironhide might be a little bit more like the president. Look, here's the deal. We need to take on the Autobots, regardless of their political stance, whether this is a unilateral, bilateral deal, doesn't matter. We need to spread the economy around. We need to make more things available for the Decepticons because they can't afford it. And we need to make hit a little bit more taxes on the Autobots.
Mr. President.
Yeah,
I would just like to ask this question. How will that affect my taxes?
Well, the critical thing here, is this Optimus Prime?
I'm not sure who that was.
Oh, well, the critical thing that is necessary to understand is that in order for me to do the people's business, I have to tax somebody. And it appears to me that the Autobots have a lot of control over a lot of the gold products that the flesh creatures have.
This question is for both of you. Can you recall the one moment in your life which motivated you to become a voice actor, and at what point in your career did it settle in that you had succeeded?
Well, actually, I was doing stand-up comedy at a nightclub in Westwood, and a fellow came in from an advertising agency and said, you know, we're doing a Friskies dog food commercial, and we're looking for the voiceover for the tail of the dog, and I did this dog and cat fight. And I said, well, what's a voiceover? He said, well, just show up tomorrow and you'll do it and you'll see. And so that was really the first time I was ever exposed to doing voiceovers. And then when I got, it's funny, this fellow's girlfriend was casting a show called Scooby-Doo at ABC, and she had me come in for that. And when I ended up getting that show, then that's the first time I realized that, you know, maybe this was a whole independent business that I hadn't even been aware of, and, you know, it could be a lot of fun. So that was kind of my first jump into the voiceover area. And I was doing basically my voice Freddy. And now I'm Scooby-Doo.
That's why he's the greatest. Rook, he is. He's the greatest. I guess I realized I had a particular talent when I didn't want to go to school as a kid. And so I'd call up the teacher and impersonate my father, and then impersonate my mother, and then do them both at the same time.
Oh, man.
And I spent a lot of time playing hooky, I guess, going down, taking a streetcar and going into movie theaters and watching movies and say, this is my life. This is what No, seriously, I guess I really wanted to just go into voiceover after I realized that there was I had a few voices I could do, and I didn't want to be an on-camera actor at that time. I just wanted to raise my kids and be home, most of the time, which it turned out to be because I didn't get very much work.
And you do Peter does a lot of great impressions, too, and that's one thing that voice people do. We all kind of do some mimicry, but Pete just is amazing. A lot of people don't realize how good he is at impressions.
See, compared to you, Frank, I'm a plebe.
All right. You get a better Christmas present this year.
And I'm more humble.
Peter, Jess Harnell is a very talented voice actor, but how did it feel to relinquish the role of Ironhide for the movies and games?
That was easy. I'm Jess Harnell. He's a very talented guy. My choice at the original series was I broke down that character, and it kind of reminded me of Wallace Berry in The Champ. That, gee willikers. That guy? I mean, and all his lines.
Don't go in there, champ. He'll beat you up. Don't go in there. I'm telling you, please don't fight him, please.
Oh, now, kid, don't worry about me. I'm gonna be just fine.
But I'm worried about you. I don't want you to get hurt anymore.
Oh, cut your crying, kid. You're making me all soppy.
Frank, how does it feel to return to the character of Soundwave in an official capacity after voicing him again in Robot Chicken?
Well, I'm not really sure. I don't think I can talk about that. You mean Megatron in the game?
No, he meant Soundwave. The guy with the tape thingy that would go kick, swoosh, ravage, ratbat, frenzy, eject, eject, eject!
He's adding his part.
Oh, that's cute. Peter, I believe it's your turn to push the button, okay?
Okay.
In general, how was the experience this time around working on the video game?
Well, I think having a little more experience and knowing what to expect is always helpful, just in terms of getting there and doing the job and being prepared. And then also, I think being able to go back and look at the show was good. I kind of like to do that now, and it was fun seeing what everybody did back then, and remembering some of those shows. That was a kick. But actually, physically doing it, it was just a lot of fun. I think we had even more, a little bit more background since we just did the other one not too long ago, and Megatron enjoyed it.
Really, that's very true.
Okay, now this is the portion of the program where we take emails from our listeners. This question is from a Lone Gamer 8 and is actually for Lord Megatron. Now, we all know your opinion of the flesh creatures known as humans, but what is your take on puppies and kittens?
Puppies and kittens. Very low on the food chain. They're expendable like little ducklings. You see, humanoids waste their time on these creatures. They spend enormous amounts of money making them better and building little pools and little yards. But I must search for the Allspark to make the universe better. And, of course, to give me more power. Very harsh.
Oh, it's hard to think that Megatron and Optimus Prime were related.
Interesting. Okay, this question is for Optimus Prime from one Galen Raff. If you had to choose an alternate form other than a truck, what would it be and why? And may I suggest an extremely large Segway?
At this very moment, I think I'd like to be a 45-foot sport fisherman. A Bertram, yeah. Bevy of quail serving me green tea With a rod and reel. I couldn't imagine anything more difficult than trying to imagine Optimus Prime. It was a hard time to try to conceive him as a truck to begin with, but a Bertram 45-foot sport fisherman. See those guys put that together, huh?
Okay, and finally, this one comes from Mouth04. Okay. Well, I guess neither is an animal or insect, so let's see. Gentlemen, if you had to place bets on who would win, would it be ninjas or zombies?
Ninjas or zombies?
Ninjas or zombies?
Well, I've always had a penchant for ninjas. But there's nothing quite as good as a zombie. Starscream is the #1 zombie in the universe. And I have to deal with him every day. I would say I'm going to go with zombies.
Then I will go with ninjas.
Very enlightening. Well, gentlemen, we've about come to the end of it. In conclusion, what would you like to say to all of your adoring fans out there?
Well, I can't speak for anybody but myself because this has been a long, ongoing thing for me, and I feel a deep appreciation, a sincere, deep appreciation, and I've always found it to be a privilege to. It's a privilege to be a part of this life and sharing it with fans together, because we're kind of living something that started many, many years ago, and we continue to live it, and we share something quite special. A thank you, a really very sincere thank you.
And I would absolutely echo that. And Peter and I have had more than one conversation discussing this very subject. And for a couple of old guys, old in the sense that we've been around in this business a while and kicked around and we have a few scars in our hide, we appreciate so much the fan base and the loyalty of these great people to bring us back and be so sincere in their kindness towards us, and it truly is humbling, and we definitely appreciate it. So I think that's the big thing we can say is just thank you. Appreciate it very, very much.
That's well said, Frank. I agree with you completely. Love you guys.
Yeah. Hang in there and enjoy the summer. I think you're going to have a lot of fun with the new game and a lot of fun with the feature. So just enjoy all things Transformer and have a great time.
Excellent! I'd like to take a moment to especially thank the fine people over at Activision for facilitating this interview. Shoutouts to my peeps Dan Suarez, Neil Wood, Wiebke Hess, and Kyle Walker. You guys rock the his house. Please be sure to purchase your copy of Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, available on June 23rd for most major consoles, and check out the movie coming soon. You can find more information on www.transformersgame.com and www.transformersmovie.com. Peter Cullen and Frank Welker, everyone. Thank you very much for speaking with us, gentlemen.
It was my pleasure.
Thanks again.
Beginning transport back to Earth.
I see, Peter.
See you,
Well, I think that went well, but really, Cog, the mustache?
I couldn't think of anything else to say. I was starstruck.
Starstruck, really? By what, the mustache?
Yes.
You got the touch!
You got the power.
When our hands breaking loose, you're in the eye of the storm. Well, that really is some genuine karaoke right there. Good job, Cog.